Comic Book Savant, episode 347.
I know this. This I know. All that I have, all that is me, resides inside my poetry. And every time I write a rhyme, it might be the line that sets mine free. And also, I know that I don't.
Welcome to the Comic Book Savant podcast. I'm your host, James Harris. This week, we're going to be doing another Cutting the Stack episode. I've done my previous episodes in the past couple of months on DC Rebirth. This episode, I'm going to focus in on Marvel, and I'm going to pick some random titles that I've had in my stack to read that are Marvel based that I'm finally getting around to. So before we get into that, as always, I'll have to give a shout out to my friends over at the Comics Podcast Network. You can find them over at comicspodcast.com. If you happen to like this show and you want to find more comic book related content, please go over, check them out. There are literally hundreds of different shows listed there. It's a one-stop shop portal / directory of a ton of comic book related content. And if you happen to also if you listen to the show, you're also, happen to be a comic podcaster yourself, you can go over and ask to be, asked to submit over at the Comics Podcast Network as well. They're always adding new members as well. I always talk about them every episode, but I tend to leave that part out. If you're up and coming and you have a comics podcast and you want to join the Comics Podcast Network, go to that homepage and you should be able to submit or to send an email over to the administrator, which is Ian Levinstein. He should be able to add you on. As far as I know, they're still accepting new members because that page constantly grows. So please, if you have a moment, go by comicspodcast.com and check out some of the great shows that are over there. And last but not least, I'd like to give a shout out to our sponsor for this and every episode, which is InStockTrades.com. One of the best places that you can go online when you go in to try to get collected editions, omnibus, epic collections, absolute editions, you name it. If it's collected or hardcovered, you probably can find it over at InStockTrades.com. They have discounts ranging from 35 to 42 to up to 50% off. If you look at their deals of the week, they update that page, their homepage weekly with different deals. They spotlight more and more books. They started out where they only would spotlight 5 books. Now they do 10, sometimes more, just depending on what books they want to feature. And you can get those up to 50% off. Also, if you're a U.S. customer, if you place an order $50 or more, you get free shipping within the U.S. That's always a great incentive to, spend, a lot of money there because you're getting great, savings. So it's real easy to hit that $50 threshold. That's only for U.S.-based customers. If you're out of the country and you're overseas, you still get all the great savings that you'll see on the website. You just don't get that extra bonus of the free shipping. They do have some of the most competitive shipping rates around for international shipping. So you still overall are going to save a ton by shopping over at InStockTrades.com. I personally have used them, for as long as I've been doing the show. Actually, I was using them before I ever used the show and before they ever came on as a sponsor. Love the service. Great family-owned business. I've been dealing with Cameron and his wife for quite a while now, and they've been great support. So much so that they're the catalyst for this great contest that we're running right now throughout the month of August. I was going to end it the end of July or beginning of August. I announced last episode that I was going to extend it out to the very end of August because I wanted to give as many listeners the opportunity, the chance to win. We're running a mega contest, 11th year anniversary contest, where we're giving away 3 prizes. We're giving away a $75, $50, and $25 gift certificate to InStockTrades.com. And I want to thank, Cameron and his wife and the whole staff over there for being so gracious to, this is the biggest giveaway that I think I've done in the history of the show. And I really appreciate them for that. And they've been a great sponsor and just partner and allowing me to, give back to you guys for supporting the show and allowing me to be able to do that. So, if you have a moment, definitely stop by InStockTrades.com, show them some love, let them know that you've heard about them from this podcast that helps support the show. And now let's get into the main topic. But before we get into the actual reviews that I want to talk about this episode, I want to go into some news that just dropped yesterday. And we know that I cover so many different areas in the world of the comic book industry. One of the things that I've covered, in great detail over the years of the podcast is the animated movies. And one of my favorite people, and if you've been a long time listener of the show, you've heard me mention her. I feel like she's one of the unsung heroes when it comes to just animation in general, but more so when it comes to the world of comic book animation. You don't hear her name enough, but she's a very pivotal person in the industry. This is why you don't record podcasts first thing in the morning. When you mess up, it just seems to snowball. But who I'm talking about is Andrea Romano. She's been in the voice director, just in animation in general, but more so over the past at least 20 years in the realm of DC, working for DC Comics, or not just DC Comics, but some of her most notable work when it comes to comic book stuff has been with the DC Animated Division. Again, she's been in the industry for over 30 plus years. She's voice directed shows like the original DuckTales, Animaniacs. She's been the lead voice director for over 23 DC Universe original animated films. Those direct to home video movies that they do. She has been attached to 23 of them. She's been a part of the Batman animated series, Teen Titans, the original, not that Teen Titans Go stuff, but the original Teen Titans. I love that show. Legend of Korra, Avatar: The Last Airbender. She's currently working on Voltron, the Legendary Defender, Nickelodeon's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Justice League Unlimited. Her resume is extensive. Again, 30 plus years in the business. She had already planned to retire, but she has an eye affliction that or disease that is really coming on hard, and she can potentially lose sight in one of her eye that she has the affliction. It's a great article on IGN. I came across it. I'm going to put the link in the description in the bottom. So if you pull this up, if you go to the website and pull this up, you'll have links to the actual article from IGN. It goes into a little bit more detail, but she's worked on so much stuff. And it comes to the realm of superheroes. And she's not just been a voice director. She has also done voices in tons of shows and movies as well over the years. She's been fully hands-on. I first really learned of Andrea back when the Justice League was out. And when they originally put the series on DVD, maybe it was season 1 of the Justice League. It was a while before those came out, and they had behind the scenes, and they had a recording session for an episode of the show. And I was like, why? The voices, just the chemistry with the characters were just so spot on, and you understood why. She was one of the first and probably one of the only directors that did this for the Justice League. She would actually have schedule everyone to come in, and they would actually be in a big sound stage, and they would record the episodes together, like they were in the room together, seeing each other, can actually interact. If you know anything about voiceover work, a lot of times one person will come in. You see it certain places. I think with the Clone Wars and Rebels, at certain points, Dave Filoni would have like multiple people, but a lot of times is one actor comes in, he does his part, and he, doesn't record off of someone face to face. And she was one of the first people I saw do that, and that brought her to my attention. And I then followed her work throughout, and I saw her backlog, like all these shows as a kid from my childhood on to my adulthood. she was attached to, and she, worked on as a voice director. So she has a phenomenal resume. If you ever want to look her up, just go on IMDb and look up Andrea Romano, and you will see, like, she's been attached to so many great things and has contributed so much to the industry, and you don't hear her name enough. And I feel like she's a unsung hero, and I'm kind of sad. And she has kind of moved away from a heavier workload. Voltron is in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were some of her more recent stuff, and she still worked in and around DC. They have a new guy. I spoke about it in one of their latest releases that I started noticing they start transitioning. He worked in concert with her, and kind of like, I don't know if he was a protege of hers or not, but you start seeing him, especially as they ramp up and they put out more and more the DC Universe original animated films, that you saw, like, they start bringing on, more people. And it's sad to see that, not that she was forced out, because she already planned this made her expedite her retirement a little bit early. But she, in the article, it states that, she was wrapping up some of the projects that she's, been associated with, some that hasn't even come, that will be coming out over the next couple of years, but she finished all the principal work on it, and she's stepping away because of this. And I wish her all the best. And like I said, I feel like she's truly one of the unsung heroes when it comes to what we have now and the animation realm and the stories that are being told, and the shows that are getting on TV as far as animation have a lot to do with this icon in comics. So just want to, give my well wishes to her and hope everything works out fine. And I pray that she doesn't lose her sight in her eye. But I wish her all the best with that. So again, just wanted to speak on that news tidbit, because it just kind of hit me in a certain way, because I've identified with her, and like, I've done more and more research over the years over her vast career, and just a person that I've never met, but just endeared to her and her spirit, and just seeing her in behind the scenes stuff. If you ever see her work and how dedicated she was, she loved what she did. Truly. But to get into what the actual episode is about, again, is comic book reviews. And, I think long and hard about this. And as I get feedback from different, you guys, and I appreciate over the past few months, because, personally, doing this is tough sometimes, because, again, I don't have a barometer, to know how things go, and if what I'm doing is working or what I'm doing is resonating with you guys outside of seeing numbers until you reach out. And I appreciate the ones of you that have responded to things that I've said over the past few episodes and have reached out and gave words of encouragement and and just told me that you enjoy what I do and you like what I do. It means a ton to me on my end as a creator. And it's something that I know is, like, I don't read as many comics as I used to. So I'm a one-man show. So it's hard for me to juggle certain things that I want to cover to what depth I want to cover them. Because, movies are out, television shows are out, cartoons are out, news is out there. So I'm constantly juggling on what I want to cover and what I want to talk about on the show. And it just seemed like, I realized I don't do that many comic reviews as much as I used to. Not that I don't read comics. I don't read them at the clip, and it's so much going on. It's so hard for me as one person to cover everything in comics that I cover at a worthwhile clip. Most of these comics that I'm reading are not very current books, but they might be things that you overlook too. I know if it's hard for me, we all have lives outside of our hobby of comics. So I might be turning you on to those. So that's my hope, and it's hard to keep up with every current recent thing that's out. So, sometimes you are 2-3 years behind in certain series and certain books. Certain things are going to catch your attention more than others. So my hope is, even though these are not the most current books, some are sprinkled in there, others are not. Because we all know comics are super expensive right now. The first book I want to talk about is going to be Black Bolt. Again, this is a Marvel-centric review episode, so all of these are Marvel titles. This is Black Bolt issue 1 by Marvel, written by Saladin Ahmed, artwork done by Christian Ward, lettering done by Clayton Cowles. I just read this first issue. I've talked about this before. I signed up through Comixology because I do most of my comics digital now. They have a great service called Comixology Unlimited. I signed up for them. It's with tax and everything. It's $6.48 a month. I've been using them. I think this is my third month because today's August 1st. This is my third month in this service. I'm really loving it. They added, when I joined 3 months ago, Marvel came on to Comixology Unlimited. Beforehand, it was just independent publishers like Image and IDW and Dynamite and all that. But Marvel came on, and they've opened up. They don't have as many books available through Comixology Unlimited that they do with Marvel Unlimited, because that service has been around for, over a decade. But they are quickly trying to match that library through the Comixology, their participation in the Comixology Unlimited program. And they're doing something a little different, because I think at least with Marvel Unlimited, certain books are like a year behind, or maybe like 6 months or something like that. And I see that with Comixology, they're sprinkling in some newer releases like Black Bolt and some of the new Cable book, because those are two books I'm going to talk about. It's a really great service. So I know after I did the episode a few months back about the state of the comic industry, and from the people I polled on social media, not everybody is feeling digital comics. But if the prices of comics that limits you from buying as many comics as you want, you might want to try something like Comixology Unlimited. Is only $6.50 a month. For me, like, I don't have the budget to spend on comics like I used to, and that sometimes hamper me on books that I cover, because I just can't afford all the books that I might want to read. So I kind of had to pick and choose my battles. This then allows me to kind of be able to catch back up on later on books that I couldn't initially afford just to pay full cover price for. With Marvel, not with Marvel, but Comixology Unlimited, the great thing is, like, long as you're signed up for the service, there's no limit on the amount of books you can borrow. And like I said, Marvel has really came on board with Comixology and offering like a ton of books. Like, each month they're adding a ton. Like, when it first started, it was limited, like the first few weeks, and like literally it seems like each week they're adding on books, more books and more books. So the library for Marvel has gotten extensive, which is good, because they're putting up so many books. And my hope is that eventually DC gets on board and they'll bring them on. My fingers are crossed on that, because then I would be really set. Even if they go up to $10 a month, if I could get from the major publishers, all their books, even if they're some backdated through this service, it would be awesome. But it's allowed me to pick up some of these books like Black Bolt, like Cable, to check out that I wasn't going to pay $3 and $4.99 for per issue to read, to be able to let you guys know if it's worth spending the money on. With all that being said, this is a phenomenal looking book. Nothing story-wise. I'm not familiar with Saladin Ahmed. I'm not familiar with him at all. He might be new to the business, or I just have not come across his work to this point. Nothing in his writing or storytelling stood out enough to me to encourage me to go past this first issue. I will probably, in subsequent Cutting the Stack episodes for Marvel, probably will follow up on it if they're made available through Unlimited. I wouldn't pay money off the cuff for this, but through this service, like I said, it'll allow me to potentially follow up later to let you guys know if this series has improved. I read the first issue. It looked stunning, but that was about it. If I read more, it was based on the phenomenal work of Christian Ward. I gave this one a waiting for the trade rating, which is a 5. I gave it a 5.5 out of 10. So, it's is meh. That's the best way I could describe it. It was like, man, it did nothing to help Black Bolt's character to make him such a compelling protagonist that I'd be like, I have to read the next issue. It was no draw in the issue like that for me at all, which is unfortunate because the artwork was so stunning on it, but just the two didn't mesh well enough together to compel me to want to pick up the second issue to continue to read it. The next comic that I read is Cable issue 1. This is a current ongoing Cable series. This one is written by James Robinson, artwork done by Carlos Pacheco. Inker is Rafael, I hope I pronounced this correct, Fontaneras. Colorist is Jesus Arbatov. And lettering is by Corey Pettit. This was a pretty decent first issue. I feel like James Robinson seems to have a pretty good grasp. And if I'm not mistaken, he's written Cable before. This is not his first time with his hands on the character. So you can tell it's familiar. What can I say about Carlos Pacheco? He's one of the greatest, one of my favorite artists of all time. So anytime I see his work on a book, I'm happy. Raphael does a good job in inking him, because I do notice sometimes different inkers can drastically take or add to Pacheco's pencils. This guy's doing a better job. That I could clearly still see his defined style, but with a different take. And everyone's hand, as far as being an inker, varies. And I've noticed it over the years. Certain inkers work extremely well with certain artists, and then other inkers can hurt, I feel, because they might be too heavy on the inks on certain pencils, and it kind of takes away or just detracts from the artist's work that you've known them for. But here it's a good match, a good fit. I definitely want to look forward to at least finish reading this first story arc of this new Cable series to see where it goes. I gave this a good read. I gave it a 7 out of 10. So I definitely want to at least check out the first story arc or trade of it to see where it goes, and continue with the series if need be from there. Next, I'm going to be talking about Cable and X-Force. This is an older series. I think this was started in the Marvel Now initiative. I mean, I know they've had so many different initiatives since then, but I think this is the original Marvel Now. I reviewed the first few issues years ago at this point. I can't remember exactly when. I read issues 4, 5, 6, and 7, because those what I had picked up after reading the initial 3 issues. And all in all, let me talk about the creative team. I apologize. The creative team on this is Dennis Hopeless, another one of my favorite artists, Salvador LaRocca, color work done by Frank Diamarta, and lettering done by Joe Sambino. And over the story arc that I read over these 4 issues, overall I gave it a rating of a good read. One of the issues, issue number 6, I gave a wait for the trade rating to, I gave about a 6 out of 10. The other 3 issues, I gave a 7 out of 10. They're pretty solid. Dennis Hopeless, I've been familiar with his work through Avengers Uncovered, and I try to remember the series before that. But I've been a big fan of Dennis' work over at Marvel, the things that I've read of his. This is no exception to it. I feel like he writes team and group and different characters in a group. That group dynamic he has down from this previous stuff that I've read of his. And that very vastly different characters playing off one another, contrasting with one another. He has the human condition down and knows how to play it with the superhero archetypes very well. He's a very good writer. One of the newer writers that is on my radar that, like I said, over the past, about 5 years or so, that I've enjoyed. I enjoyed a lot of different stuff that I've read of his. again, Salvador Larroca's artwork plays extremely well. I feel like Dennis Hopeless is a very artist-friendly writer. And I noticed in the stuff that I read with him, of his over the years, especially his Marvel work, it always seems to mesh extremely well with the artists that he's paired up with. And I think that sometimes is just as important as anything else, how the creative team collaborates with one another to make a top-notch book. And I feel like this is not, universe bending, but it's his books are always fun to read. And very entertaining, and he does, like I said, he does great character work with the characters that he's given to work with. I think some of the dynamics that some of the pairings he does are so odd couple in a way. The dynamic between Colossus and Domino is great, and then Dr. Nemesis and Forge is just so funny how they play back and forth off of one another. I really liked issue 7. They had a brief interaction between Cable and Cyclops, and we know Cyclops is Cable's father. I really liked that. It's just an overall really solid book. Maybe not a top of the stack book, but maybe this is a quarter to middle of the stack book. Again, it's been out for a while. I'll put links in the show notes in the bottom of the posting for the episode to the affiliate links that I have set up through Amazon. So if you want to check any of these books out, I'll have links to the trades that you can pick these up, and that'll help support the show if you use those Amazon links to make any purchases. That's one way you can support the show kind of indirectly by those links. To check it out further for yourself, but I think it's fun, and it's definitely not I think it's worth the money. These issues have been out now, so you can find them probably cheap when you go to a show, or you can get the trades super cheap through either InStockTrades.com or with the Amazon affiliate link. The cool thing about that is if you want to buy these books digital, if you buy it through the Amazon affiliate link, you also you have the choice when you buy it through Amazon if you want the actual physical copy or you want a digital copy, because it's Amazon owns Comixology. They have it all interwoven. When you buy the digital books now, you can also have the Kindle version, which immediately will show up through your Comixology account. So the awesome thing about this is literally if you buy the digital comics through that service now, it is linked through Comixology as well as your Kindles or the Comixology app. So you literally can read your comics anywhere now. If you have a Kindle app on your phone, you can read them through the Kindle app on your phone. If you have the Comixology app on your phone, you can read it through there or on your tablet or off your computer, wherever. And that's the most convenient thing about the digital comics to me, is the readability anywhere. Last but not least, I read the all-new Captain America issue 1. This is the first all-new Captain America series where with Sam Wilson Sam Wilson as Captain America. It was written by Rick Remender, artwork done by Stuart Eminem. I always pronounce it wrong. Inker Wade Von Garber. And colorist is Marte Garcia and Eduardo Navarro, and lettering done by Joe Carmanga. I gave this a rating of a good read, a 7.5 out of 10. I love Stuart Eminem's artwork. I always have. He's really a great artist. Sometimes I feel like he doesn't get his props the way he should. He's the top tier, artist in the business, and sometimes I don't think he gets as much fanfare as he should. But he's a great artist. The visuals throughout this book, and I the one thing always that stood out about Stuart's artwork to me is he has a straight line. He has a stiff line. He's not. He's definitely comic booky. I feel like when I look at his work, not as not as tight with his pencils, but he does solid lines. He has a solid fluidness to his work, and it is not anime-ish. It reminds me in a way when I look at his work in the rigidness in his lines of maybe a Jim Lee, not Eric Larson a little bit when Eric Larson was younger, or when I remember what I liked about their lines. Kind of when I would draw, I had a stiffness to my line. I wasn't loose when I was holding the pencil, and it fits in that category because growing up, Eric Larson, I loved his style of artwork back when he was doing Spider-Man, and then Jim Lee work on X-Men later. I kind of feel like he. Not exactly, but I would put him, they draw in a similar style. Their styles all look very different, how they come across on the page, but you would all, they all have a very solid, steadied hand, feel to them. Maybe I'm getting really too deep on artwork right now. I don't know, but, I just love his artwork. Where someone like when you look at some of the other artists that I talked about, because all of these, and it wasn't intended, it just kind of clicked in my head as I'm going over the talking points for the episode, my little notes that I have about the creative teams on the book. Three of these artists are some of my favorite artists of all time. And actually, when I look at Christian Moore's work, it kind of falls in line with Stewart's work, where it's a more steady hand, and maybe that's why it gravitated to me. Where Salvador and Carlos has a more kind of cartoony feel, a little bit looser, a little bit funner, looser hand with their pencils. You get a more, like I said, rigid or stiff style. Not photorealistic, but realistic in comic terms with his pencils, and that's why you listen to the podcast. I'm looking at myself like I'm crazy when I'm talking about this stuff. Like, where does it come from? But it's what I notice. So I just give you guys the stuff that I notice when I look at comic books. As I try to look at all the points and all the things that go into it and around it. I hope you might be like, this dude is a total nerd, and you might like it. Like I said, I think over the years in doing this for so long, and I got an opportunity over the years to meet writers, and I've met different artists, and the process that they go through on it, and I started noticing these things more and more because there's a lot of work that goes into putting a comic book together. And it was like, okay, if I'm going to talk about them, I need to notice all the great work that goes in and around and behind, these comics to give you guys insight that, anybody can read a comic and talk about it, but can you really talk about the art, the writing, and be able to explain it to people, in a way that might open up your eyes to a different aspect of just flipping the funny pages. You know what I mean? That's what I try to do in doing this. So I have talked long enough about all this good stuff. That's it for this episode. Definitely, I'll have links to all the books that I talked about in the show notes. Check out the website, comicbooksavant.com. Don't forget about the contest. We got to the end of the month to register to win. All you have to do is go to the comicbooksavant.com website, and you go to the contact us page. In the contact line or the subject line, put contest. 1 entry per listener. Is going to be 3 winners to the contest. You still have to the end of August. Like I said, I extended it because I wanted to give as many people opportunity to win these great gift certificates being provided to us by InStockTrades.com. Again, a $75, a $50, and a $25. So you'll be able to get you some good trades off of that stuff through InStockTrades.com. So I definitely, as many people, if you go in, if you hear this, take a moment. It only takes a moment to check out the website and enter into the contest. Again, it's going to be 3 winners. Follow me on social media. You got Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I'm all over the place. We got the YouTube channel going strong now. I'm 10 episodes in as of the recording of this episode. And so I finally got that off the ground. I feel very accomplished, at this point, that I've talked about it for years, and that's finally going, and need you guys to subscribe. So if you like this show and you want to see my ugly mug in person on the YouTubes, go to youtube.com/comic book savant and definitely check it out. I do video movie reviews, so non-spoiler for movies there. I talk about some games. I do some reviews. I try to keep it relatively short form. I try to anyway. I don't always succeed. I try to keep it in and around 10 minutes per episode that I do. Is content that I don't cover here. Again, it's just trying to diversify and give you guys different content in a different way. I talked about it for a long time. I was totally scared of doing it, but now that I've gotten a few episodes under my belt, I'm getting a better feel for it. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. That's all I got for you guys. Next week is going to be a big episode. I don't know everything that I'm going to talk about. It's more of a reflective episode. I can't believe it's been 11 years of doing the show. Yeah, it's a lot, and I've taken time to kind of try to process it, but I can't believe for something that that was just kind of a dare to myself, to just challenge myself to do, that I would have done 347 episodes. I've started a YouTube channel. This has become a huge part, but comics was always a huge part of my life. It's kind of in retrospect, is I've exceeded my wildest dreams in doing this, and I owe that a lot to you guys. So I'm going to be talking about a lot of that stuff in the episode, and whatever else comes to my mind or comes to my heart to talk about, I'm going to cover in that episode. So that'll be next week. That'll be episode 348. And that's all I have for you guys this week. Again, check out the links, check out the sponsor with InStockTrades.com. Click on the links if you want to buy any of the stuff. And I will see you guys again next week for another episode of Comic Book Savant. You guys have a good week, and you guys take care. Check out the YouTube channel. A new video will be dropping by Thursday. Probably be Wednesday when that drops, but Thursday, no later than Thursday for sure. And I'll see you guys later. Take care.
And into lyrical wholeness. And I know this, and I know this. This I know, this I know.